महे गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। हरिः ओम् श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्। Jai Gurudev. Yes, so today just I will welcome Dr. Indrani Kelkar. So she is passed out from IIT and she completed her PhD in short time. So they're supposed to take 6 years. Has completed within 2 years because of this memory technique and that method she applied day-to-day life and her career also. And she established Vishakhapatnam Gurukul School in it's the first in RSVK, and she was conducting frequently all the years in their institute. And she is established in Raichi. There is an institute also, and I request Indrani Ma to continue more, giving more details about her introduction as well as this class also. So thank you. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you, Sunilji. Jai Gurudev. And on behalf of myself and Sunilji, I welcome all the participants who have come here to learn about or listen to the introduction to this special program on memory development. I will tell little about this program. I was a teacher of mathematics after passing out from IIT Mumbai. Always interested in studies, but I found that study started becoming a pressure as I went on doing higher studies. The more I studied, more I felt pressure, stressed, too much to remember, so many books of 1,000 pages to read, 100 pages, 200 pages, and then how to remember all this. In around 1995, Rishi Prabhakarji introduced us to this concept called super memory or rapid comprehension technique. I learned it directly from him, followed it for myself because I was doing my research that time. It was much easier what I had studied in my school days. Also, I could remember even with the page number where on which page I could visualize where I have read it. It started becoming much easier to remember, and then I went on exploring it more and more. So last around 25 years, I have been working on it with thousands of students and learned that it's much easier to learn it earlier in their age, life as a student. So if it is learned somewhere at age of 8 or 9 years, it's much easier to have this life with study much enjoyable. I don't think students today enjoy exams. So I'm going to explain to you how it's possible to enjoy studying, because in school we learn. So I'm going to explain to you today what it means of using the capacity which is God given to all the human beings to its best possible way. So I'll share the screen. Once the screen is visible to all of you, please let me know. Yeah. So this program, we call it as rapid study and lasting memory. So two things should happen. Even if we have to study long material, we should be able to read it quickly, understand it, and then keep it in the memory for long term. Most of us as students are having lots and lots of data around today. Not as students alone, but as human beings. We have too much of information available because of internet, books, online books, hard copies of books, and lots of information. But that information does not become knowledge unless it has transformed itself from its data as facts to our information converted by our brain to understand and use it. So whatever information can be used or applied becomes knowledge. So the difference between information and knowledge is very simple. What is available outside us is information. Once it moves to our brain, becomes part of us, and our brain knows how to use it, it becomes knowledge. So in computer science, I belong to computer science process. I work with Tata Consultancy Services. So majority times I will talk to you through the language of computer. So for me, or for all of us today, what is data or what is information? It's in these 4 steps. It's data, which are individual facts, which is lots around us. It becomes information when it is organized, structured, or it is tagged. So through a context, it becomes information. That information becomes knowledge when it is conceptualized by our brain. And that knowledge becomes wisdom, or with an insight of our understanding where we can reflect upon, or we can use it, apply it, we can use it for decision making in our life, it becomes wisdom. So if data has to pass through these steps of information, knowledge, and wisdom, it is our brain which has to do this job. I'll give you this with a small example. Let's understand data as raw data, which is not having any connections with it, like a color red or a number 192.234 or 235, or we say version 2.0. Anything like this is raw data, which is simply either characters or numbers. That becomes information if we attach some meaning to that. Say, let's take the first one, red. It is stated as south-facing traffic light on corner of the Pitt and George Street has turned red. That's simply an information unless we are part of it. If it's happening somewhere and we are reading it as a line blinking on your TV screen, then it's simply information for us because we are not part of that process happening. But if we are in the traffic and I'm driving towards and that light has turned red, then that information becomes with the context of my presence there as knowledge. How do I use this knowledge? If I say I better stop the car because the light has turned red. So in these simple terms, the raw data, when applied, becomes wisdom. This is very, very crude way of understanding how data becomes wisdom. But behind all this, lot happens from our brain. So how brain processes this data? So first, data is taken into the brain called as encoding, exactly like how the computer would do. Then it is stored or it is discarded. So some part is stored, what is not required or unnecessary, it is automatically discarded, which is a very special thing about our brain, that after it is encoded, the brain decides to store or to throw away. And what is stored can be retrieved when we need it. We can recall it or remember it when we need it. So these are the 3 basic stages through which our brain processes data. if we have to look at it, that if it has to be there in our memory forever or whenever we need it, nothing is like forever, but actually when we need, if we can recall, that's called memory. Even if it is shifted to memory, but we cannot retrieve it at the right times. So what is retrievable in right memory? Then that is divided into two parts, explicit and implicit. We can say conscious and subconscious, not actually unconscious, but where conscious is not required at subconscious level. It is further coming from two types again, the declarative or procedural. We'll look at declarative little later, but the procedural memory is something which we begin as a child. We start learning a lot of things like learning to bicycle, learning to play cricket, or learning to throw a ball, or learning to eat with a spoon. All these are skills which we learn by practice or habit, or even driving a car for that matter. When we learned it for the first time, we are very conscious about it, and that's why it is not part of our implicit memory. It is still explicit. We are worried about which gear, where we are moving, which way the steering is going correct. It is still in the process of practice. So until we have not become habituated to it, or it has not become part of our skill, it is still an explicit memory. So the skills which we learn become implicit or become as a procedural or subconscious memory, where automatically memory will be responding to situation and things will happen automatically. We can say as response or just actions without we putting any stress on it. And that is the most easiest thing which happens to our memory when it is skills. But for declarative memory, it's not very easy to become like procedural type, where it goes into subconscious and comes comfortably when we need. Declarative memory is facts, concepts, or events, which is again divided into two parts, the episodic and semantic. Episodic are events or experiences, things happening around us. Like that day I visited that place and that was such a beautiful rainfall there. We drove around and all that what you experience while traveling is part of your memory, but you remember it when you go through similar situation or you are explaining it to your friend. It automatically comes to you. You don't have to by heart it. You don't have to do any work on it because it's your experience. So whenever a fact is your experience, there is no processing required. So implicit memory, when you practice the skill you learn, you don't need any further processing. It's automatic for you later. Episodic memory, what you have experienced or the events which you have gone through, the good, bad, every kind of event and experience will be recorded in the brain on which we don't need to process. So what we need to process on is the semantic memory, the facts and the concepts. And they are part of our syllabus today for learning anywhere, like maths, physics, chemistry, social studies, and economics. Anything of that kind is semantic memory unless it becomes our experience or skill. That is why most of the subjects, when studied as laboratory skills or experiential processes, much easier to learn. But otherwise, semantic memory needs a lot of processing. How do we do that? Many times students or parents ask me this question. Do students who always get good marks need to learn memory techniques? And my answer is, memory techniques are for everyone, because if you already have way of getting good marks, that means you know how to actually express yourself at the time which is required, the more you need to go through, more you need to learn, more you need to expand, it's much easier for you to do if you have the memory techniques. And intelligent students who are good at knowing how to present can much quickly learn the memory techniques. I have experienced it myself. Even going to IIT, I used to think I know everything. That was a unnecessary feeling that I can do anything very quickly as far as maths is concerned. But then when I learned the books, the depth of the knowledge is increasing. It started becoming very difficult because the knowledge is like ocean. The more you want to learn, the more becomes stressful if you don't know these techniques. If you know these techniques, it becomes enjoyable to learn. And what you enjoy, you remember longer, is our experience, which is natural for us. So, how and where we learned this knowledge of super memory or having easy memory or easy way of learning, it goes back to the ancient Gurukula system in India when there was no paper developed also. Teacher taught the students without having any even board writing or much. Students don't need to take any notes. Everything was transferred verbally. Teacher will teach, students have to by heart it, remember it, and it's forever. That time, these memorization techniques were very, very important. So what techniques we are going to learn, go back to this era, and from it has come is what I can assure you, because people have used it for many, many years. So what is the knowledge tree on basis of which this knowledge is tested, I tell you, is lots of Vedas and Upanishads and Ayurveda and allopathy, whatever kind of knowledge in the world is available, you can put all that into this tree. If that has to be learned, one branch of it is what we are going to learn and you are going to learn in your life, then every branch of it, this knowledge can be applied. So how we are going to do this? For that, we need to know how our brain functions. Very rarely we understand how brain functions. We know how our stomach functions, we know our heart functions, because in school you will be taught with those basic systems of body, the circulatory system and the excretory system and all. But the nervous system is something, the most complicated part of the body. And among that, brain is the most complicated, but the most useful to all of us. So what brain contains? Brain looks like this. If you look at yourself, make your hand to a fist like this. Whatever is the size of this fist is size of your brain inside. And that's the smallest part which has the highest capacity. So what brain contains? Brain contains neurons, and how many they could be. When we are born, we would have around 100 billion neurons in. And each neuron has a dendrite, which is the extension like this. So that neuron looks like this. The dendrites are those hair-like structures. The more the dendrites, the more the capacity to store the information. The more expanded the network of neurons, the stronger is the information processing capability of the brain. Exactly like what we call today artificial intelligence or machine learning. On this basis, that whole structure is designed. Those engineers first understood how brain works, and that knowledge is used in programming today. The red line which you see, that is called the myelin sheath. That sheath becomes thicker and thicker for those people who do a lot of repetition of same information. The thicker the myelin sheath, the longer the memory stands for. So how learning is processed by the brain. Now let's look at not facts and things like that, but how actually brain looks at it. Like how we know brain has got some information, that means brain has some input given, like in terms of getting data, brain needs some input. The moment brain gets some input, new dendrites start to increase. That every line for like how your house has a wire connections for light, fans, AC, and what all electrical instruments are there in the house, they will all be connected with electrical network. Exactly same way, brain is connected to the whole body with this neural network. So whole body gives information to the brain. At every information, what increases is the dendrites. So learning is equal to growth of dendrites. So how long we feel young, how long we feel I'm learning, the brain will be that much active. And brain has nothing to do, brain development has nothing to do with age. By 6 years of age, brain stops growing in size physically, but it keeps on increasing its neurons until we keep on using it. And that's the only instrument in the body which goes on and on and on indefinitely without having any maintenance issues if we use it properly. So before we learn how to memorize, I want to explain to you why we forget. So I'm going to explain to you first what is forgetting, because once we know forgetting, we'll understand how memorization is possible. So I'm going to explain to you the forgetting curve. So it says that whatever suppose you have learned today or read about it, listened to it on day 1, it starts going, if you don't give a first reminder within 24 hours, 50% of it is lost. If you don't give a first reminder within 24 hours, 50% starts going down. If you don't remind another second reminder within 10 days, it goes down even to 90%. It's much easier to lose as the days pass. If you don't remind within first 1 month, 30 days, it's still going to go down and we are going to definitely forget. The last is within first 2 months. If you don't give the fourth reminder, definitely sure that you have forgotten about it, unless it is an experiential memory. This is all about the semantic memory. Whatever we learn today within 24 hours or 10 days, the third reminder in 1 month and then 2 months. And that is how the exam structure is designed in schools. There will be a homework which you have to do in a day. Then there'll be a weekly test, a monthly test, and then a quarterly test. This is how the exam structure is designed in school, not to trouble the children, but to make sure the revision happens automatically. And then the information is gone into the brain permanently. So this is called the forgetting curve. We should understand the forgetting curve very carefully to know how to remember. So now we want to cut the forgetting curve. So to cut the forgetting curve, giving these reminders will be the most important thing for us. So what techniques we are going to learn are actually putting these reminders at regular intervals so that the information becomes permanent. So how is the memory processed? Basic 5 steps for any information to process. One is intention. Like you have decided that I want to learn, maybe reading a book, reading a poem, or listening to a song, and you want to sing it tomorrow in a program, so you want to remember that. It could be anything, not necessarily a book from your school. It could be anything which you want to learn. The first thing required is your intention. Next is the attention, observing the information with concentration. I'm going to teach you how to improve your concentration in this process, because that is something which we lack. We very fast deviate from our concentration. So the attention goes away. The attention span is very, very less today. Next is association. That is what we already know and what new we learn, the association between that organizing the data. We all have sequential memory. So the information keeps going to the brain. But if it's not well organized, at the required time, it doesn't come out. And that's exactly like how computer uses its data processing, organized data processing. Exactly same way we need to train our brain to organize itself. Once intention, attention, and association is processed, then for retention, there are different practices to be followed. Different information types need different practice methods. It's not that every time we use same by-hearting like mantra like process. It needs different methods for different data types. And finally, to test, to check whether the information is therein, we need to recall, practice it, use it whenever it is required, and then it becomes permanent. So these are basically the 5 steps in processing the memory. By attending this session, you have shown the intention. By wanting to learn something, you will show the intention, but to increase your attention span and to make the organization, you need some training and skills. Once these two are learned properly, retention and recall is natural for our brain. So, whether I'm eligible, can I do it? Is it possible for me? For that, we need to do something called PSR check. What is P? The purpose. Why I want to remember or why I want to study. You will have to do this as a homework for yourself to know why do really I feel long-term memory is required. Next is how should I go about it, and we will train you for that once you have understood your purpose. And finally, where I am. Where I am, I should know so that my further process of training and processing depends. So for that, we will give you a small test to tell yourself where you stand, what is your learning style, and then we will go for the training ahead. So this check will be done. After that, from that standpoint, the training goes ahead. Before I train you or you learn about something, before we give you the instructions about what the process is, let's understand what is the natural way our brain gets the process of learning, or how brain actually, because even without learning these memory techniques, you have been learning. So what's that way of learning? One is the declarative knowledge, which is memorizing the facts. It's limited by time and storage, because if you don't repeat it again and again, you may forget. Like in your first standard or second standard, you would have studied a lot of new poems or pictures or drawings or stories. That year, it was much easy to remember. Out of all those 10-15 stories or poems in the book, you may remember 1 or 2 which you like the most. But further ones, definitely you don't remember unless you would have repeated them. So declarative knowledge is something which is told to you, which is facts, like 2 into 2 is 4. What's told to you as fact, and later they'll tell you it changes. But the fact which you have no questions to be raised on, they are called declarative knowledge. There is nothing why. It's just like sun rises in the east. That's a knowledge which you have to accept, because that direction where sun rises is called east. So there is no question why. That's called declarative knowledge. Second is imperative knowledge. That means how you perceive what knowledge base you have, what you see around. So you generalize from observed facts as your interpretation of it, or you do deductions of new facts from the old facts. And this depends on person to person, it changes. And for this, to have a better imperative knowledge or better wisdom, as we call it, that needs a lot of learning, or that's real learning. Declarative knowledge, there's nothing much as learning because you have to accept it. But imperative knowledge is something for which we will need not only memory techniques, but something like yoga, which is very essential to understand how to have this logic developed along with the facts. So, what are the different input units to brain? Naturally, only the five senses. There is nothing other than this which brain understands. So five senses and pre-stored information from birth. Every minute, every second, lot of information is pushed in. So just like a computer has input units like keyboard or mouse or joystick, and output units different, but input units are only these five to your brain, to everybody's brain. What do these five senses give us? These five senses about, say, a particular object. Suppose we saw some nice flower in the garden. Then its color, its smell, its texture. If it has any kruk sound because of some movement of the plant, how it looks. About that particular object, complete information is given by these senses to the brain. These five senses are to be developed in first 2-3 years of everybody's life. Up to 3 years, they keep developing. Once after 3 years, you feel I know. But if we don't use them properly, if you don't use them synchronized way, then concentration is very difficult, because we are seeing, reading the book, looking at the book. So eyes are on one place, but the ears are listening to some sounds which are happening around. Smell is taking you away from the book because you are hungry and the thoughts are going away. So for concentration, it's very essential that these five senses are in sync. How to do that? Again, meditation comes to our help here to have these five senses in sync to improve the concentration. If five senses are in different direction, naturally there is no concentration possible. So now, know this picture very well. Each of these five senses, this is the brain, looks like your intestine inside, exactly similar way, but with lots of neurons inside. And each of the five senses has a location, like vision, hearing, and speech, smell. Each of them have one place. Like in a house, you have a switch for your tube light, one switch for your fan, exactly same way. Each of the sense has a location here. And that location is the one where first time the data will go from that particular sense. And then the other parts of the brain, we will learn in details how they interact with each other to make this information from five senses and the originally stored data in the brain to make a sensible information. So where language is stored, where pictures are stored, how the brain correlates between different data points, all that we will learn in the process. So how exactly the brain will process is essential to learn to develop your memory in a better way. So now let us understand, to have these five senses to work in coordination with each other, the most important thing to understand is yoga, which is meditation, pranayam, and quality of thoughts, basically these three things. So we will learn from Sunil ji how this yoga helps us in developing our memory.
Thank you, Indranima. Jai Gurudev. कंट्रोल करते हैं कुछ थोड़ा को होस्ट करूं. Yeah. Okay, Jai Gurudev. So now we'll see about we just saw that 5 senses. Same way in our Indian culture, they done a lot of research. All our scientists, those scientists we call here in India, just like Rishi. Okay, so actually Rishis, those are the scientists. They done a lot of research. In that research, they found out the 5 main elements. Okay, so that was the whole world working through these 5 elements. That is the space. Second is the air. Third is the fire. Fourth is the water. Fifth is the earth. So these 5 elements is the very important to understand us and to know about us. Okay, so for to be in the space, already we are in the space, but here to keep in the mind space, for that a lot of foreigners come to the India to know about themselves and know about the meditation and about the yoga and pranayama. So you know about Apple company owner. Okay, so he also came to India, stayed in Rishikesh for 6 months. So he discovered the Apple company. He started the new journey in his life. Same way, when Narendra Modi ji went to the America and the Facebook owner, he hosted Prime Minister there. Then he told that about that he also visited to the that Facebook owner also visited to the India. He also stayed 6 months and he practiced the yogasan, meditation, pranayam, Indian culture. What is the basic wisdom? What is the basic lifestyle to carry to the new knowledge and new discovery? So knowing about himself as well as the world, and the thought comes when you are in the relaxed mind state. So when you will be in the relaxed mind state, in the there is a 3 brains are there. There's the reptile brains, mammal brain, and neurocortex brain. So in the, whenever we are very happy or peace, joyful, then only that neurocortex brain activates, that new invention, new ideas will come, and that what the benefit will get by doing regular meditation. So we are going to learn here meditation, and we sit a lot of time in the class, in the tuition classes. So in physically, especially students, they sit more and they do physical less activities. So for that to energize ourselves, so we practice the pranayama, so that can circulate in our whole body. That is pranayama means, prana means energy. So there is a 10 types of pranas are there. So we're going to learn about this okay in the coming classes. So aya means rhythmatic. So if you are hungry, so your breathing pattern will change. When you are crying, that time your breathing pattern will be changed. So when you are joyful, so that time also your breathing pattern will be different. So we are going to make it in simple rhythmatic breathing. So while practicing regular meditation, so we are going to practice it coming. So it has a lot of benefits. So about the mind, we'll get training for to run the two-wheeler, yeah, four-wheeler. Okay, we'll get the license also. So the vehicle doesn't have its own, movements unless someone is there to drive. Same way our body, okay, so it will not move by itself. So some force is there, some energy is there, so it is moving all the time. Suppose if you are disturbed mind, if you are writing on your notebook, so your handwriting will be disturbed. So when you are very cool and relaxed, so same subject, yeah, same topic, if you are writing, that will be very nice, it will come. So the pen doesn't have the problem, so even hand doesn't has the problem. So problem comes with the mind. So if the mind is disturbed, the everything will be disturbed. So that is what we never trained our mind. So we trained ourselves how to sit, how to sleep, how to eat, so how to wear the dress, all the things, but we never trained our mind. So that is what our ancient Rusi Munis that practiced how to control the mind and how to manage the mind, how to use it properly. So I doesn't have interference with the nose. Eyes function is to see, nose function is to smell. Okay, so they never interfere, so they never interfere with the somebody else duty. But whatever we are getting from the senses, so to handle it, that mind is the key person, key process. So we know that in computer, five inputs are there. So after input, the process is very important. We call it central process unit, CPU. So here the mind is the very key person, key point. So who manages the mind, he can manage everything. Okay, so in Indian culture they say आपको मन को जीत लिया तो सब दुनिया जीत लिया. So for to win that mind, so we are going to learn day by day today, okay, day by day in the coming classes about the yoga, about the meditation, about the pranayama, and about the food also. Okay, so that will help you from the beginning itself. So that's what our Indian tradition showed us, how to live our life and how to lead our life, so that we can always be joyful, energetic, dynamic, and we are going to useful to the world, to the nation, to our society, to our family, to ourselves. So that is what we are going to see with coming. So see you all, okay, with coming classes. So bring your friends and relatives also. So we'll have wonderful coming days. Thank you very much. Okay. Jai Gurudev.
Yeah,
So I will
so we
request.
have not done yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we understood that there is correlation between brain and body. Now let's look at it how exactly the brain takes the information. A small example, suppose you are looking at a fruit. The eye will sense the image. The optic nerve will send that information to the visual cortex where the eye center is. That information passes to the eye cortex and sits there. But it's not sufficient that I have seen it and you have kept it there. It is essential that that information becomes our knowledge, becomes to understanding. So simple picture is not sufficient. So only eye information does not give complete understanding. Then you know its taste, that will be another place it will be stored. Then you know its size, shape, details about it, then its texture. So at every different point, those informations are kept in. But they need to be organized by connecting those informations. And that process actually is called correlation. Now, you can open your mic. It's going to be little interactive from here onwards. What is this shape? Can anyone tell me? What is the shape which you see on the screen? Anyone can open their mic and tell what you feel it is. Okay. If you don't want to say or don't understand what it is, the same dots, I will arrange them in a different way. Now do the same number of dots, same color, same size, but arranged in a different way. Now what is this shape? Now it
Ma'am,
looks like
can I
tree. Yes, please. Yes, Om, you can. Swapna.
person?
Sorry?
Person.
Person. This looks like a person to you. Okay. Now what this looks like?
Yes.
Now it is?
Second one
Everybody
is
will
T.
say same, right? Because each one's brain would have stored something in a different way. But the moment we close the dots, it became like a picture which is known to your brain and you can recognize. So what exactly happened in seeing this process is your eye or a human eye can recognize this as shape. But what does the brain do? It articulates it, calling it's a number, value, color, or shape. All this articulation is done by the brain. So eye job is to recognize the shape, but brain adds its pre-stored information to it and articulates it. And articulation is the most important thing required in today's world or any time what we call communication or expressing ourselves is articulating. And brain should do that job by helping us giving that information. Now I want another volunteer to come out and read this passage. Anyone who can see this carefully, please read this passage to all of us. Yes, Vedika.
Can I read?
Yes, please.
According to research at Cambridge University, it doesn't matter in what order the letters in a word are. The only important thing is that the first and last letter be at the right place. The
Rest.
the rest can be a total mess, and you can still read it without problem. This is because the human mind does not read every letter by itself, but the word as a whole. Amazing, huh?
Yeah, so if you write such a paragraph in your school exam, will your teacher give you marks? No.
No.
But you could read it. Is it any single word written properly except two-letter word? No.
No.
Then how your brain could read every spelling? Because you already had some storage in your brain called as words. Now brain is doing this called artificial intelligence, machine learning. Today we are using machines to do this job. But our brain is so powerful that first and last letter and the same spelling, if you shuffle the letters, brain has capacity to read it as if it's correctly written. Such a powerful instrument brain we have with us. All of us can actually read, those who can read these basic English words. Now, this capacity of brain can be misunderstood, misused, or can be used it nicely. It's exactly like an atom bomb. We can use it or we can misuse it. This allows us to make mistakes, and this itself will allow us to use our brain powerfully. To distinguish this is what we need to learn as technique. So how this all happens, how the brain actually does all this. So you get the input, which we call it as a stimuli. That stimulus has come from the five senses, so it is called sensory memory. That's the first step, how brain takes the information. Next is with the attention. So whatever you don't give attention to, it actually goes out as trash. It is not taken even into short-term memory. Like you travel from your home to your friend's house or to your school. You pass lot of shops or houses on the way. You do not remember every shop board or every shop structure or what is there in. But whichever your attention put on or whatever you needed to buy or you were searching for where you gave attention, those houses or those shops you remember. Daily you pass also you will not remember because your brain has or you have not given attention to. So what you give attention gets into short-term memory, rest all is gone into trash. How to increase attention? Meditation helps in increasing the attention. And what happens? Whatever is not given attention is out from memory. Short-term memory, if not given any further processing, it's also automatically forgotten. Like I told you in the forgetting curve, if you don't repeat that information within 24 hours or within first 10 days or first 1 month, from short-term memory, it will go to the box of forgot. Where is short-term memory stored? In your frontal cortex of the brain. If short-term memory is worked on, you do encoding, you put it in, you rehearse with it, then it goes into long-term memory and you can retrieve it very easily. But from short-term memory, retrieving whenever we want is not possible. And what we learn, the memory techniques from short-term memory to long-term memory processing are the memory techniques which help us to transfer the information from short-term to long-term. Meditation helps you at attention. It helps you in storing it, but the technique helps you to shift the short-term memory information to long-term. So now, how do I know how I learn? Because there are different learning styles depending on the which sense you use more. So the very first thing is visual learning style. You can observe yourself from the criteria given, which is the characterization of this. So those children or those adults who have visual learning style would like to sit in the front benches, would always like to look at the person when they are listening to somebody. They generally like to visualize when somebody is telling a story in the picture form, and they learn best when they see visual display. If you belong to this category, you are a visual learning style. But if not visual, you could be auditory learning style where you use your ears more. That means you like to listen to somebody or something to learn. You like discussions more than visualization. You like listening to somebody and feel I have understood. When you interpret, you don't create pictures, but you create your own story and you tell yourself. That's the way of your verbalization. Instead of visualization, you will be doing verbalization of what you have understood. And such students generally enjoy or understand only when they read aloud. But visual students would not like reading aloud. Some parents tell their children, just that I want to know you are studying, please read aloud when the children are young. And as the children grow, they stop reading aloud thinking I'm grown up. But if your learning style is auditory, it's better you read aloud because you listen to yourself and understand better. But those who have visual learning style, if they are forced to read aloud, they will not understand anything because that reading aloud stops their visualization process. So a person who has visual learning style has a different way of learning than a person who has auditory learning style. There is a third learning style called kinesthetic. And the kinesthetic ones are the ones who are more active, can't sit at one place for a long time, can't anytime sit in the front bench, they'll be the backbenchers. They like not to listen, not to see, but do by their hands. They have hard time sitting doing nothing. They will like somebody demonstration. They will understand better. They like classes where there are laboratories or trekking and sports where they have a lot of activity. And these are the people who prefer group activities. Visual people would not like to study in groups. Auditory people will like to study in groups if somebody talks to them. And kinesthetic people will not be able to study alone. So each of this learning style has their own good and bad. How do we know our own learning style? And it's not necessary that a person who is visual is 100% visual. Most of the times you will have your prominent learning style, which is natural. And these are natural inborn. We can't change them just like that. But there will be overlap. Like some things I learn better when I listen. Some things I enjoy when I do will always be there for each one of us. But you will have one prominent learning style. So before we start our sessions, we will give you one test called VAK test to know what is your learning style, because the memory techniques will change its way of operation if your learning style is prominently one of these. If it's a mix of 2 or 3, then that's good. You can use most of the memory techniques usual way. So we will do this first understanding because this is very, very important for a student to know what is my natural learning style, because that will help me to learn better and remember faster. Once we understand this, I want another volunteer to do this for me. I want you, the volunteer, who is ready to volunteer? Swapna, you did once, right? Shriyanshu, or is Shriyanshu ready to read? I'm going to give you something, a passage ahead. You have to read it aloud as quickly as possible, but you have to read the color in which the word is written and not the actual word. Is it clear? What you have to read is the color, not the word. Who is
Yes.
ready to volunteer?
I can do
Swapna?
it.
Can I do it?
Yes, you can. Please read. Read the color, not the word. Please do it.
All right. Can I do it, Anushka?
Yes, please.
Okay. Blue, red, green, yellow,
Fast.
orange. Oh, orange, green, yellow, red, blue, white, red,
Fast.
orange, blue. No.
Yeah, what happened?
It's tongue twisting.
Yeah, but what are you actually reading? Where are you getting stuck is, I pushed you to read the color, but your brain is actually reading the spelling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is where the coordination is very important, because your eye is seeing something and your brain already has some information about that spelling. These are all simple known words just juggled in between with different color I've written. What happened is your brain needs some coordination. Not that you don't know it, you know it very well, but when I ask you to read it quickly, your brain is confused because what your eye is seeing and what your brain already has is not matching. And that is something which we need to learn. For this, we need to know how our brain actually functions. Brain has two parts, two major parts. There are lots of parts, but two major hemispheres called left and right. The way your brain on left side works. How many of you write with your right hand? We call them as right-handed ones. All those people, those who write naturally with their right hand, or whenever you want to get something or pick something, your right hand naturally comes in front. Those people are supposed to be left brain oriented. Left brain, right hand. And these persons have better skills in writing, language, science, maths, logic, because left brain is logical brain. They are more optimistic, they have positive emotions, and they have a lot of control on themselves. So left brain is a more thinking brain, the linear thinking, very logical brain. Exactly opposite is the right hemisphere of the brain. Those who are left-handed, those who write with left hand, or naturally their left hand comes forward for anything they want to pick or lift. These people have their emotional expressions more stronger, their spatial awareness or their picturization, visualization is much better. They are more musical, creative, their imagination is very high, and they can see the whole picture as one. So their right hemisphere is much stronger and they are more holistic in thinking. Now we all have both these things, but more of the schooling, we learn more on the left brain oriented. Most of the subjects which are part of our learning in school days are this. We should never learn only the left brain oriented, because then it is a lot of unhappiness within. So we should have parallelly, along with the language, maths, science, and computer and all the logic things, we must have something which is more creative, like painting, music, drawing, singing, playing, anything where you have emotional expression. These two hemispheres must work in coordination or in tandem. For this, we give you some training called brain gym. Like to develop muscles, we go to a gym and do exercise to develop our physical muscles for our forceps and biceps. To develop brain muscles, to have coordination between left and right, which is very, very essential to have a better expression even for science. Like today, if you are using an app on your computer, the back end, what all is done is not what matters to you. That's all science or that's all logic. But to develop that, to you make it more user-friendly, there has to be a nice screen writing which is done, or content writing which is done for the front end of the app. So for an app to be developed, you need the left brain oriented people and also right brain oriented people combination to make one app very useful to the whole community to use. Exactly same way, if you are good at science and maths, but not good at articulating or presenting what you know, everything becomes as if you feel frustrated. You don't know how to say what you know also. So it's very essential to know both the things. Now this language, it's very easy to learn first language, what we call it as mother tongue. Now it need not be mother tongue, but why it is called mother tongue is that language as a child you have heard lot of times around you. That becomes your base language or mother tongue. Those who know more languages have better opportunity of using their brain in a better way. To learn one language is a left brain process. But to learn further languages, not by translation, but by understanding, needs a wonderful memory processing. And when you learn this memory techniques, you will be able to learn languages much easily and quickly. After learning these supermemory techniques, I knew that time only one of my mother tongue, which was Marathi, and English, because that was the education language. Today, after training lots of students and traveling around the world, I have learned 8 languages much comfortably, even to read, write, and understand. It's only because of these techniques which help your brain to become much comfortable with a new language. So you don't learn a new language like technique, but you learn a new language much easily from your right brain processing. And then that coordination gym, which we teach you the simple exercises, which make your left and right brain synchronized, will make your memory to be much stronger, because a coordinated set of brain hemispheres make long-term memory much stronger. So it's not sufficient to learn the techniques. It's not sufficient to know what is to be learned, but it's essential that you are happy while learning it. You are happy while using it. It's just like that. If you remember what was the most beautiful thing you ate in last 1 week, you will be able to remember what was the most beautiful movie which you saw in last, say, 2 years. What was the most beautiful place you visited? It's much easy to remember when you were very happy or when we were very sad. So very happy and very sad, the brain is actually in the same state. That state is very, very important for processing memory. So when you are going to learn these techniques, if you want to be successful in using those techniques, it is essential that you have to learn to be happy while learning. So if you do anything with happiness, it will be much easier for you to learn these techniques, enjoy them, and become part of it forever. Like whatever you do in your life, whether you become a professional, you make your own business, you plan to do any research, every time it will be useful for you because you have learned how to learn itself. You are not learning a subject here, but you are learning how to learn any subject. So it's very important that you see a lot of people, they have fantastic memory. You have those memory gyms and you have competitions where people or very young children can remember and long length speeches they can give. It looks very nice to see people that they are successful. But behind that, there is a lot which is done. There is a lot of hard work, dedication, discipline, sacrifice of your time and persistence. And all this has to come. Without that, success is not very easy. What we see from others is success, but when we know their story of success, you will know all this. So it's going to be a session of learning different steps, but that doesn't end there. You have to practice and follow it regularly to make sure it becomes regular habit for you. Then only it will be easy for you to use it and make it. And one important thing in our training sessions is, generally people will tell you, no, 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 don't do mistakes. But in our training sessions, we tell you, yes, mistakes are essential. You make them, learn that you have done something wrong, be open, be confident, and do it. You understand that I have done a mistake, because that mistake will allow you to make stronger connections inside your brain. Exactly like in machine learning, how we train the machine in the beginning. The machine learns through mistakes, like face recognition machine on your doorbell. Beginning, they install the machine. That time they allow you to show your face 10 times. And those recognizable faces only allow. And when the face is recognized by the machine is known, when the machine does 5, 10 times mistakes, finally it says not this, not this, not this, this. And all that not this mistakes are taken in by the brain as learning process. So we allow you to do mistakes here. There is no pressure, no stress that you must prove yourself to be good. But we give you a feedback on what you do wrong. You should be ready to take that feedback and build your connection inside the brain stronger and stronger. So you are allowed to do mistakes, but not to repeat the same mistakes. That's the technique of training which we follow. So what basically we will train you or we want you to do is memory master map, where you say the book, you get the explanation from the teacher or you learn, you make your own notes, then you shift it to brain. From brain, you do self-study, then you make your own notes. From there, you go to the exam. This is a natural learning process which should happen. But what most of us do as a quick trick is from book teacher notes, we directly take or buy the review notes. We say these are most important questions and most important something. We practice only that, directly go and write the exam. We really do very well using that. We get good marks also. But because we have not followed this long path, our short-term memory, exam passing is sufficient. After that, the memory is also out from our brain. So we don't want you to take this shortcut, but we want you to use the natural process by which the memory is for knowledge processing, not for exam processing. As a teacher and a student for last 50, 60 years, I can tell you, because I'm still taking exams, I'm still enjoying learning new things. I'll tell you, if you have the knowledge, getting marks is not very difficult because you need to learn the technique of presentation there. But if you don't have knowledge, even if you get marks, they are of no use in later life because you can't apply that certificate, does not have any value in the world around. What has value in the world around is your knowledge. So we teach you here knowledge processing. Marks is a natural outcome of it. So please don't follow that red shortcut path is what we'll teach you here. So the method which we use in training is fun way or play way. There'll be a lot of different interactive sessions. You will learn yoga, which is very essential. It's part of the training. Then we'll teach you how to set your goal, because nobody should set for you. You should learn, because every goal will allow you to use your memory in a better way. We'll train you on your attitude towards yourself. We'll also find out your own learning style, VAK, and give an individualistic approach to using the memory technique. There'll be a lot of group activities, grouping with the particular learning styles, and introspection methods used for training. Lead and collaborate will be the process. So activity-based learning, where you may become group leader and train, and the group presents something within short, small activities which will help each other. And we do not teach you your subjects in this process. We don't teach maths, physics, chemistry, language, or social studies, or anything like this. We teach you how to study any subject. So whatever your syllabus is, whatever the content, you can take even a storybook and apply the technique and do well. Because there are some artists who have attended my training and they say that it has helped them in, they are theater artists, they are cinema artists, they are TV actresses, who felt it's much better for them to do their by-hearting of the scenes much easily with this technique. There were a lot of places where you don't need subjects to be studied, but your brain will get a method of studying a particular subject. We will teach you the differentiation between how to study maths, how to study language like subject, how to study science like subject, because there are different ways of learning different things. And subconscious memory development, which is generally not done in learning process, we will give special attention because that is the way we actually train you to have long-term memory. So how short-term to long-term is from conscious to subconscious shifting. And we'll also do brain gym, as I told you, for the left-right brain synchronization. And there'll be a lot of different nice, interesting, creative ways. So what techniques we'll learn is picture reading, memory maps, blow it up, shrink and expand, recitation, connect the dots. These are different names for the techniques which we use for different aspects of subjects learning. Story making. So different techniques you will learn, and we will also tell you who can use which technique, which of learning style people will find it much better, because same technique can be used for 2 or 3 different styles of subject which you are reading. So finally, you can apply these techniques learned in whatever you learn here in your school study, where you say for short-term goals, improve your marks, maybe languages, English, Marathi, Hindi, whichever language you read, or French, German, anything. Social studies, it could be history, geography, civics, economics, science could be physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics. Each of these will take weekly one. First week will be work on language, next week social study, next week science, next of that mathematics. But what we teach you here are short-term goals. If you look at the long term, you will improve your skills on communication, basically presentation, then general knowledge, scientific understanding, and logic. So this long term is what is our main stress on. The short term is natural for you to learn because we'll use them to teach you the technique through, but all those techniques will be useful to you to develop these long-term goals. So what all you need to come with when you come for the training, whatever textbooks or storybooks you have with you. If you are a student, it's better you have whatever textbooks you are going to use, the further, not the finished ones, but the new ones which you are going to learn. One long notebook for concepts which you learn to write in while processing, then one notebook for the memory charts and maps, and few color poster, few white sheets, pen, pencil, sketch pens, and this all, yeah, it's fine, but yourself with full attention, it's most important. And we also wish if your parents can attend with you, if a student is attending, we don't mind parents sitting with them, but not observing them, but learning the technique so that the parent can help them later to use it for the child's benefit when it comes to processing that for their full year study or further study also. So this is, if you want to take a snapshot, you can take so that you know what all you have to bring. Those who are, we will send it also in the group. Now the training general schedule, you will get that VAK learning style detection test for 30 minutes. It takes around maximum 30 minutes. It is self-time, you can take any time after your registration. We'll share the Google test with you between 30th to 4th August. Anytime at your convenience, you can take this test. Your score will be received by us, and depending on what the score, we will explain you what is your natural learning style and how you should use the memory techniques. Then we start the session on Saturday, 6th of August, the next month, first Saturday. Every Saturday, Sunday sessions will be there. The last session will close on 11 September because on request, we are not keeping a session on 3rd, 4th because that's the long weekend and many of you would have your own programs. If none of you have any programs, we can finish on 4th, but if some of you have your programs, we have planned to close it on 11th September. So 5 weekends, each day 2-hour session. Each day, Saturday 2 hours, Sunday 2 hours, like that 5 weekends, so total 10 hours session. And it will start at these timings at your own zone you look at. So as we started today, exactly the same time, and the session will go for 2 hours. And we will have in between one parents meeting for the students who are joining. We generally do it to know any observations or any suggestions we want to give to the parents on 21st. The time of it will let you know later. So this is another important information which you should note down. And for any more information on joining, fees, sessions, structure, you can contact any of these people who are in your zone, your city, your state, wherever you find. For India, we have Ujjwal's number only on WhatsApp. So for any further details, you can contact any of these. And if you want to share to your friends, because it's always better if you learn it together, you can give. Sunilji will tell you that this video will be shared and helped, and we will arrange few more such sessions so that it becomes easy for you to communicate further. So that's all from my side. Sunilji, you can add some more details. And
So thank you. Jai Gurudev. So anybody has any questions? So you can type also.